Well, hello again, everyone. It is the awesomers.com podcast episode series. And you know what? It's episode number 230. I've checked it twice. My list, that is. I've checked it twice. And I know who's been naughty and nice. I haven't seen a review from you yet. I was checking. I went through, I hacked your computer. I looked up your email. Then I looked up your iTunes account. And I saw no review on Awesomers from you personally. So this is Steve begging you to get that review done today. Now, all you have to do, by the way, to see the audio version or the video version, whichever one you want to see, is go to awesomers.com/230. You might even see some show notes and details about this particular episode, which happens to be part of our Axiom Mini Series. Now, the Steve's Axioms, this is number 15, very important one and quite visceral to me in terms of my learnings. And it's quite simple. It says, beware of boomerang delegation. So one must ask, what is boomerang delegation? Anyone? Nothing from the class. Oh, it turns out I don't have any guests today, so maybe I'll just answer the question myself. How about that? So boomerang delegation is the phenomenon when you give somebody an assignment in your company, and somehow that assignment comes around to you. Now, sometimes it bounces back pretty quick, and that's still a boomerang, right? Where you go, hey, can you do this for me by tomorrow? And they come back the next day when you go, hey, did you get that thing done? They go, oh, I didn't know what to do about it. Can you help me? So that's already boomeranged, right? And that's not a great result. If they don't know, right, when you assign or give that delegated task, you should go, hey, do you have the resource? Do you know what I'm talking about? Is it written? Are we clear? And they should, kind of turn the missile key, and both of you launch your missiles. This task is underway. But so that's a simple boomerang, but I'll give you an example of one that just destroys my life. So I say this is somebody in the past and a team in the past, so and nobody's here to get sad or mad about it. But I say to the president of the operating organization, I say, hey, you know what we need? We need to do, I don't even remember the exact function or the exact result I was expecting. We need to get this platform to do this certain thing, and that would really be helpful, right, from a strategic level. So here's the chairman of the board talking to the president of the company saying, hey, this would be something that we should try to do. And the president goes, gosh, boss, you're right, let's do it, right? And I go, cool. And we set whatever milestones in terms of time are appropriate. All right, sorry, I had a little pause for a cough there. So the president then contacts the director of merchandising, goes, hey, this is something that we need to get. And the merchandising go, yeah, you're right, boss, let's do that. And then merchandising calls somebody and says, hey, helper, please help me do this. And the helper goes, okay, I'm on it, boss, thanks. Yeah, I'm getting all over it. And then the helper calls the chairman and says, hey, I don't know how to do this, and my boss wants me to get it done. Can you help me with this? So you see, that boomerang came around and hit me in the back of the head. I think it was like the next day. After it had touched 3 or 4 people, it came around, and the person it was delegated to at the lowest level asked me to do it, or asked me how to do it, so that they could get, fulfill this effort for their boss. That is a classic boomerang delegation, and it happens far more than people realize. And boomerang delegation is often a result of not setting up the task in a proper way, not delegating in a comprehensive way. So you sending an email going, can you do this, is not a great delegation, right? It can get you by. I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm not saying I don't even start a delegation with that at times today. But most often, I recommend that email, even if that is the origin, starts something trackable, like a project, right? And so when a project is created, then somebody is accountable, that it's assigned to somebody to deliver that project. And there may, in fact, be tasks underlying that project, right? So there are tasks that are related to this specific project, and those can even be assigned to different people than the project manager. But kind of everybody kind of lays out, all right, here's the project, here's what we want, here's the tasks, and here's who's responsible for each task. And each of those tasks will have a timeline, right? So if you've ever seen a Gantt chart, right, they're just kind of linked together. And, to get step number 3, you got to get step number 1. But sometimes step number 4 can be done simultaneous with step 3. They don't have to wait. And all of that kind of stuff can be laid out in a good project management system. And then that is a much better and more comprehensive way of delegating. And it actually reduces your boomerang opportunities, because the boomerang is far less likely to swing around on you if things are systemic and there's a protocol to ask questions. And even if the question does boomerang back to you, somebody is in that task or project and they just comment to you, hey, Mr. CEO, I know you started this project, or maybe you initiated this thing, but I have a question about this. Right there inside the project, they can ask you the question. And then inside the project, right, you get notified in your email or your Slack or whatever. You could pop into the project right where everybody can see it, and you go, oh gosh, let me clarify what I was saying here, ABCD, right? That is both a proper delegation, because you got a kind of a 360 view of what is expected, what are the resources you need, in terms of time, money, logins, passwords, people, and then the expectation of delivery. All of that, if that's delivered up front, and by the way, that doesn't mean every delegation is 200 pages of paperwork. It just means you follow a process. It's quite easy, actually, to make a simple project. In fact, you can make project templates that already have pre-assigned tasks or pre-made tasks, and you can assign them later. All of these things can be effective systems building, and that will help you avoid the boomerang delegation. And remember, Axiom 15 is beware of the boomerang delegation. So that just means as long as you're conscious of this reality, and if you've managed any number of people for any length of time, the boomerang has hit you in the head more than once, right? And when it comes back, it's like, why don't I just do everything myself? Why am I paying these people, right? You have all of these kind of emotional reactions, which are both, uh, at the moment, I don't know if they make you feel better or not, but they need to be said, but they're also completely unproductive and not helping the situation, right? So what we want to do is being aware of this boomerang delegation is, how do we engineer to avoid it? Well, we set up the task correctly and we delegate it in a clear and transparent way. And we give a feedback loop where necessary, so that instead of it being a total boomerang, it's like, hey, we failed, we need your help to tell us what to do. It's just tweaks or slight pivots along the way versus starting over from scratch. And I would love, maybe we'll just do a live show one time where we just say, call us with your best boomerang delegation story, because they exist in every organization. They've existed for all time, and although they're less likely to happen today, they will still happen in my organizations today, because it's impossible to completely avoid it. But I can be aware of it, and I can take steps to minimize it. And by the way, I also take my own accountability and responsibility that if I don't have time to get into the system and put in a proper project or task and kind of follow the transparency, that if I'm, due to my own time and not having enough, that I have to initiate the thing by email and I'm sending it to one of my assistants and they're kind of delegating it out, that I open up the fact that there may be some light boomerangs coming back and hit me. But that's because I kind of skirted and subverted the system a bit. Just having the intellectual honesty to say, you know what, I didn't do my best delegation on this. So yeah, I get it. I got a couple nicks from the boomerang. That will actually give you that much more incentive to avoid it in the future. But it also allows you to say, I have a responsibility here too. If I can't deliver a clear kind of delegated system of doing things, then how would they get it right? And by the way, I talked earlier about my tendency, and many managers' tendencies to abdicate. It's far better to learn how to delegate properly. But Axiom 15, you must beware of boomerang delegation. Just understanding that, having that imagery, and remembering all the times you've been struck in the back of the head by something that you thought was going to be done and that you thought you were kind of out of, you will try to engineer yourself out of this. Now, again, there's kind of a curve. I don't know if it's an inverse curve, what kind of curve it is, but the more information and the more work you put in up front, the less likely that boomerang is to hit you. And it's not possible in every case. I've already said as much. But where it is possible, and perhaps if it's an important thing, that you give it the time to put it in your whatever the proper delegation system is. For us, it's a project or a task within the system that is completely transparent and managed, online. So the whole team globally can collaborate as needed. That's what makes it easier for us. That's what makes it something that is actionable, and helps us be aware of boomerang delegation, just like Axiom 15 has beaten into you. If you've ever had some idea, some objective come back and hit you like a boomerang, it's because you weren't expecting it, and probably because you didn't tee it up correctly, in fairness. Now, there's other times where, in that case I gave you, the boomerang, it would have been at least nice to go back through the same route that it was thrown, right? But in this case, it went, president, merchandising, supervisor, line, execution guy, and that guy just threw it straight at me, right? Because I started the whole thing. If it would have at least come back that way, there's a chance they could have resolved it themselves. And some of that has to do with how accessible you are, right? Like, you don't want to have necessarily an open door policy in every case. That sounds good on paper, but in practice, it's impossible. And you need to empower your people so they can deliver results. So instead of answering questions, when they say, "Hey, boss, how do I do this?" you go, "What do you think?" Right? And you go, "Well, I think this." And if it's a great idea, go, "Yeah, cool. Try that. Let me know how it goes." Right? And they come back, go, "Yeah, that worked." You go, "Yeah, just do that next time. Skip the question part." And they go, "Oh, okay." Right? Sometimes they just need that little opportunity to say, "Yeah, I want to just run my idea by you." But then you go, "All right, well, that's solved. You know what to do now." Right? Write up an SOP. Done. You're a miracle worker. Carry on with life. Let's go. In other cases, they come back and go, "Oh, well, that idea did not work." And you go, "Well, here's an idea that I have. Why don't you go try that idea?" And then they come back and report, go, "Yeah, that did work." And you go, "Okay, well, now make an SOP for that." Right? But you don't beat them down about the mistakes. You go, "Hey, at least you tried." And you also don't try to solve it every time. I developed such an open door policy and such a firefighting expertise that my door would literally have people lined out. And I thought I was just the king of the world, right? Because they just come in, I just slay those dragons. Boom, boom, boom. I'm fighting fires, mixing analogies. I'm doing it all, mixing metaphors. And what turns out is I just developed a bunch of people who asked me what to do, and then they went and did it. That's a terrible culture. I had to learn to, what do you think we should do? Okay, give it a go. Let me know how it goes, right? And then ultimately, it's like, hey, next time, why don't you just go with your gut to begin with? And if you really run into a jam, talk to your supervisor, or if that happens to be me, then come back to me. But give them that empowerment. Don't let them skirt responsibility and accountability and live in the gray by making you responsible for all the decisions, right? Let them embrace their own kind of expertise and their brilliance. You'll find that they have more ideas than you do. Collectively and quantitatively, your organization will have more ideas and more power than you. That's why you have an organization, right? At Catalyst 88, we say strategy, right? First, where are you shooting the rocket? Then we say systems, right? How are you going to build that rocket ship? And then scale. And scale is kind of a code word for people. People run the systems deliver the strategy. That's the magic. So beware of boomerang delegation. That's Axiom 15, and it's an important one. And if you have ever had a boomerang hit, go ahead. If you're on YouTube, leave us a little description of your favorite boomerang. If you're on one of the other ones, go to the Awesomers Facebook page and leave your favorite boomerang delegation story. We definitely would love to hear from you on that. And again, subscribe, share, save, notify, blah, blah, blah. Do all the good things for me, please. I'm imploring you, and I'm at your service as usual. So Axiom 15 is all done. This is episode number 230 of the Awesomers podcast episode series. Just go to awesomers.com/230. See today's show notes and details. That's it for me, everybody. Bye-bye.